Go. Hello, welcome back to the Trekway, where we're now recording and not streaming, as I accidentally pressed on before. You join Gray and I as we come back for another review episode of Star Trek Lower Decks, Season 3, Episode 9, titled Trusted Sources. We have both watched this, and Gray and I are not too happy with it. Gray's given it a 5 out of 10. I've given it a 6. It's went downhill since the DS9 episode, Gray, hasn't it?
Yeah, like I was mentioning, the 7. I usually give on average the entire seasons, all of them, around 7 out of 10. I like it, but I'm not overly thrilled. But it's good.
Yeah.
But with the DS9, got a 10 because it was really good, top to bottom. But since then, we've done like 3 more shows, and it's like a 4, a
It's been
5,
slowly
a
going down, hasn't it?
3. And I'm like, what's going on? I was sitting there going like, this is. I mean, there's still the moments, and there's still good, funny moments, but it's just I don't know, man. It's just like they blew out everything after that episode, and there's
Is
nothing
that what you
good.
think it is? You think they've just used the ace up their sleeve a bit too early, they peaked a bit too early, or the writing's not the same? Because we've proven that the writing can be excellent.
Sure, I mean any show could be excellent. I mean occasionally you might have a show that might be, a little lower in quality than typical, but not this low. I mean, come on, it's
Consistently
something
low.
to.
Yeah.
Exactly, and I think sometimes I wonder whether they feel. I don't know if I'm not trying to blame them, but what I'm saying is that you can use the excuse that it's a cartoon show. Well, it's an animated comedy. It's an animated cartoon, so that gives you carte blanche to get away with garbage. And I'm sorry,
Yes.
maybe I'm looking too much into it, but I think it's true. I think you can get away with stuff and just say, "Wow, it's a cartoon show, man." I'm like, okay. I
Which
mean,
is
but
not right.
even with regular cartoons, I mean, it's got to have a certain amount of quality or consistency to it, and
QA
there really
Grey,
hasn't
quality
been.
assurance, it's not done
Yeah.
obviously enough in that respect,
Hmm.
Yeah, it's safe to say it's not. It's been very underwhelming for several weeks, very much like my football team, Grey, as I mentioned before, but that's another story. But hopefully the finale comes good. We've got one more episode to go, so please finish on a 7 out of 10 at least. That would be great. But we'll kick it off, Grey. With this episode here, the Cerritos is kind of doing what its initial mission was, but it seemed to die a little bit, and it happened maybe the once or twice, and it stopped. And that was the second contact, the follow up to the first contact that your Picards, your Janeways,
Right.
your Cisco's and whatnot will usually do. I think in this case they called it Project Swing By, which I like. Project Swing
Hmm.
By, it makes sense. They have to go to a planet called Anara. Now, Gray, this was, you've noted here, and thank you for this. Picard visited this first 17 years prior, and they're taking a journalist along with them called Victoria. Now, what I wanted to ask you was, you've mentioned the episode. It was TNG Season 1, Episode 22, Symbiosis. I don't
Right.
recall that episode, so I'm glad it did happen. Do you recall it vividly?
I mean, enough, and they
Enough.
kind of they do kind of explain it in this episode,
I
so I
thought
don't
they
want to
made it up.
go. You know, no, 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 nope. It was pretty much true. So they explained it in this episode of more or less what happened, and it is true.
Yeah.
So, but I don't want to give that away because that's coming up.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm really glad that even sometimes when it's not the best of writing in Star Trek, that at least they know they have got so much canon and so much
Hmm.
story to play on if they play nicely and properly with the rule book. They have so much resource. They're not. It's not as if they're starting off a brand new show with very little to draw on. They've got so much to draw on and improve on. So, but yet sometimes they'll keep making a mistake of it.
I mean, to be honest, they do a lot of homage stuff to the other series in
Yeah,
this show,
true.
and they do a lot of it on purpose because they can always drop a line and it ends up being funny. So that's become kind of a staple for this show. So I expected,
Yeah.
I expected them to drop little things, and that's cool. That's
The
part of what I like about the show.
the journalist Grey Victoria. Do you recall seeing her before at all, or was that new to you? That journalist.
Then to me, it's new. I mean, I don't know. There's so many Easter eggs sometimes, but that's new to me.
Good, right? Okay, I wasn't maybe sure she'd been in a previous like Next
Hmm.
Gen or something. So no, that's fine. So Yeah, it's the Spanish admiral. I can never remember his name again. That's back on again,
Yeah,
and he's
neither do I.
yeah, it's a name. I'm not even trying to pronounce it because I'll butcher it, and we'll have all the Spanish listeners and viewers that we have hating us. So I don't want to do that. But I like him anyway. He's not as cool as the Dadmiral, which you don't know about. He's season 3 and 4 of Discovery. When you meet him, he's like the dad that you want to have. That's why we call him the Dadmiral.
Okay.
But yeah, so he's given them this mission, this swing by. On condition, they take a reporter with them because they want to document it and to show the whole Starfleet and Federation what's going on. I had a chuckle after this because Freeman's concerned the ship is in a bit of a state. You know, almost like it's not quite the cleaned bedroom that the son told the mother it was. It was actually still a little bit of a mess. That's because it's the Cerritos and we've got messy ensigns. She orders it to be cleaned up. The senior crew laugh and don't take it seriously, but then she gets really pissed. They flee to carry out her orders with Dr. Cat, aka Tiana, saying, "Oh shit, she's serious," and bleeping it out again. You had a chuckle at this scene as well, Gray, don't you? Because it's her favourite character swearing and cursing and doing what she's best at.
Yeah, I like it. She led the whole group when she just stood up and she goes, "Oh shit, she's serious." And then when they're all running out of the room, you hear a scared howl from a real cat. So you hear, she's like, "Man," like, "Oh no." It was great.
She saves that show, but see when it this show wasn't great. You gave it a 5, I gave it a 6. See, without funny moments like that from people like Shax and people especially like Tiana, it might drop to a 5 or a 4 or something. You know. Easily. Then you're like, then it's not funny. Then it's just a poor animated show.
Right, so, exactly. If not for some of the one-liners, some of the scenes like that, some of the homage stuff that they drop here and there, it would definitely drop at another number easily.
Yeah. So I'm glad we, and I get they're not main characters, but use the senior crew enough. I don't want to see several episodes where we barely ever see them. So. Yeah, they flee for their lives to start scrubbing the place up. Our favourite ensigns, they get a shift change by Freeman because she wants to basically keep them out of the way. She knows their trouble. She wants to make sure that they can't be in the way when the reporter's on board because she's going to give Cerritos a bad name. Beckett challenges this. Now, I don't know if they took this a bit too far, Gray, because the whole time she's challenging this and complaining, she's covered in pie sauce, blueberry pie sauce, because they're going to do a pie eating competition, aren't they, which they find out is cancelled.
Right, but the cancellation comes later, but she's, I guess, practicing for the pie eating, so she's all got blueberry gook all over. And that's okay, but they kept playing up the blueberry gook everywhere she went.
Yeah, for too long.
Doesn't matter what she was doing or who she was talking to.
There was blue sauce everywhere.
What room? There was blue. Right. I'm sitting there going like, it's not funny the first time, not funny anymore after that.
Use it once initially. Yeah, see, this is your comedy show. Know when to use comedy, please, and don't overuse it.
Exactly.
But it's cancelled. She's a bit gutted about it. And I can't remember. I think it's maybe her that, it is. It's Beckett that says, "It's all right, guys. There's plenty to do around here that doesn't end in sugary diarrhea." What? She's spot on. We've all been there as youngsters, eating too much, and then before you know it, it's game over. We move on to poor Rutherford. Now, Rutherford's a bit gutted about this cancellation of the pie eating competition, which is hilarious. I mean, only the bloody Cerritos has silly events on it. This would never happen in an Enterprise.
That we know of.
Well, exactly. For all we know, Picard's a massive pie eater. We'll never know. Poor Rutherford's a mess because of this cancellation. And he basically walks into whatever lounge it's on and finds all the signs have been taken down and the bunting and the banners and stuff. And he's like, oh man, he says, if I can't get a pie, then the officer basically beside him will need to stun him. You know, like, and the officer's like, no, don't make me do it. And he rips off his shirt, like, yeah, just do it, stun me now. And then
what's funny is when the guy goes, like, don't make me do it, he actually pulls his phaser out.
Yeah, he said, oh, he pulls his shirt, no, go for it.
And I'm like, what?
And then you mentioned here after Boiler says, "What was your mum thinking? This is the biggest crew night of the year, not including Ponfar." I did remember that comment. I don't know why I didn't put it in, Gray, but I'm glad you put it in because yeah, Ponfar, man. Oh, I'd love to go to a Ponfar party.
I would.
But
Yeah, I know. I'm
that's
sitting there
after
thinking, like, so,
that's after 18 certificate. So
yes. So you can imagine, like, if they have like 7 or 8 or 9 Vulcans and they all go into Ponfar at the same time. It's like, oh no.
there's a word for that, Gray. It's called an orgy.
Yeah. Very logical one though.
Yeah, a lot of, oh god, Gray.
Maybe.
I'm sacking you for that. Actually, no, that was pretty good. I'll give you that. Right now, the next bit I had a massive chuckle at. This is when they use humor well. I just wish the quality of the story was better. Everyone's talking to the reporter Victoria, right? And they're doing the rounds. She's doing the rounds with everyone. At one point, they go to Cetacean Ops and they're speaking to the 2 dolphins. I can't remember their bloody names, Gray. But they're speaking to the dolphins, and they're like, "Is Gray here? What are you saying? Like, this is the first ship where they've had unlimited fish. They love it." And then and then they basically say, you know, well, they're having unlimited fish when they're not charting stars, they're partying all the time. And they've got like the blower things, the party blowers and stuff. I'm just like, I love the dolphins, man. More Cetacean Ops because I think they're just epic.
See, now I would love to see an episode. I mean, there was an episode where they used the dolphins a little more, but I would love to see them
mainly focused on them, saving the Cerritos or something. Don't know how they've got one tank of water, but you know. Flippers
instead the thing is, instead of doing the episode they did with the peanut hamper, which I hated, I would love to see the 2 dolphins instead. I mean,
they're hilarious. Peanut hamper's just annoying. We have a word here, Gray, that you know about, but we have a word here in Scotland that's nippy, Nippy. When someone annoys you, you use nip at you all the time, hence nippy.
Makes sense.
And that's peanut hamper. Whereas dolphins are just like, I want to go swimming with those guys and have a pint and a drink and have a good time. And who says dolphins aren't intelligent and smart? Star Trek proved it.
That's right.
One of the other people that Victoria's interviewing, Gray, is the commander. And Commander Ransom, he's been a bit creepy. He's flirting with her. I've forgotten he was a bit of a sleazebag. Actually, he hasn't done that for a while, Gray. He's actually been focusing more on ripping off his shirt and flexing. And right. I forgot he was actually a bit of a sleazy guy, and he does actually flirt with women. She's not interested, safe to say.
Yeah, she closed down the whole interview real fast. Well,
she did. Cut.
Done here.
Not here. Not happening today, friend. Back on the planet, the locals, they beam down. The crew beam down. Everything seems to be amazing first, straight off. Like, there's no, to give you an idea what happened originally. Tiny bit of backstory. Not from remembering TNG episode, but from the episode of Lower Decks itself. This planet was basically supposed to be recovering from a drug addiction that their sister planet was just to give them supplements and stuff all the time, and then they basically just cut it off. Picard cut it off, and then it's the cold turkey thing, and they thought they would beam down. It might be a bit of a mess. They might need to render some help. But everything seemed fine. Buildings looked fine. There were people walking about, smiling, happy. What's going on here? They speak to the locals, and they're like, do you need some help? And they're like, no, we're fine. No. I mean, honestly, look here, we've got some murals. We get murals of the Enterprise D, and I love that. It's a picture of cutting them off from the drugs. And then there's another mural beside there of like zombies freaking out, like a kid's drawn it that they're angry.
All going nuts and cold turkey and going crazy.
Here's what's happened here. They're not happy. And it turns out now, Gray, the locals are now addicted to fitness. And that's when Ransom went up. It was like, yeah, well, how much do you bench then? And they're like, no, it's not about what we bench. And he's like, well, I bench such and such myself, flexing.
I bench 250.
Cracking me up here. And you liked the scene just after, immediately, with the captain and the admiral, Gray, you noted down here.
Yeah, Captain Freeman calls the admiral because there's nothing for her to do. And it's not very exciting for the reporter because, she has nothing really to report. So she calls up the admiral, walks away from the rest of the people, calls the admiral and says, things are so good here. I don't know what to do. And the admirals go complaining because things are too good. And he said they need something to go wrong so that they got something to report. So then Freeman says, and this is another line dropper homage to the original series. She goes, Well, we could always go back to Beta 3. Those people could have fallen for Landrew again. And this was a line, if
That's
you
went over
watch the
my head.
TOS. Yeah, it didn't go over my head at all because I know the TOS. So in original series, season 1, episode 22 was called The Return of the Archons. And in that episode, the people were walking around kind of like they're all happy, but they're in like a drunken or a drug-induced kind of happiness or whatever you want to call it.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, they were listening to their leader, Landrew, and they ended up finding out that eventually Landrew was a computer that's been running for 6,000 years that was built by the original Landrew. And so those people were basically paying on everything they can to this one leader to call Landrew, but
Mm-hmm.
they're always in such a drunken stupor of just going Landrew, that it was just utterly crazy. So they had to get cut off from Landrew. So the whole reference to it was funny because when she's going like, well, they must have fallen for Landrew again. Let's go check that out. So it was hilarious if you really know the episode. It's that much funnier.
See,
So I really picked up on that right away.
that's the thing, Gray, right? Let's touch on that for a moment. So we mentioned before that, you know, these writers obviously know their stuff because they're dropping in little nuggets that I didn't know about that because I probably watched the episode a long time ago, but well and truly forgotten. Gray, it's a lot fresher in his mind because it's one of his favourite series. Spoiler for that special coming up soon. And the fact is, the writing still, despite that, sometimes sucks. I think potentially, Gray, that might be because we've maybe got too many Star Trek nerds on the writing staff. You need to balance it. Hear me out, mate. I think you know where I'm going with this. Say you have 10 writers. 5, no more than 5 can be hardcore Star Trek geeks. You then need another 5 that ideally haven't seen Star Trek and are neutral. They talk, and the good writers say to the Star Trek nerds, they go, right, you're putting in all the facts, the Star Trek nuggets, but this is how we play this scene to make it make sense and to make it be of a good quality and standard. But the true is reverse, where the hardcore writers are doing great stories, but you're like, where's the Star Trek stuff in it? This could be any comedy or any well-written show, but I don't have an association with it. Do you see where I'm coming from?
Yep.
You know,
it's almost like just because you throw in the little bits that pay homage, which is great, you got to have something around it that's better. I mean, although it's kind of funny though when you look at it, because Deep Space Nine obviously was Star Trek all the way through, up and down, and that was the best episode of the entire series. It was so well done. There's nothing you can
because the homage was so real and so in your face.
But it wouldn't even matter because if they had gone to Deep Space Nine and the writing was poor, it would have been a disaster.
We would have still complained.
Instead, they had 2 of the original actors, and the writing was it was almost as if the writers really had to be on their toes because they knew that if they didn't write this one properly, they were going to get holy hell.
Yeah.
And so they put a lot into it. My thing is, well, you need to put that kind of effort, or at least near that kind of effort, in every show.
Yeah.
And it doesn't show up. One little thing that was really weird too, and this could be total coincidence, but at the very beginning, we talked about how they landed on Ornara and how that was in the Next Generation season 1, episode 22.
Yep.
And then the Landrew reference was TOS season 1, episode 22.
Is it someone's 22nd birthday on the writing staff? Maybe
I don't know.
They'd be too young. It'd be someone's son or daughter's turned 22. Let's put in 22.
I mean, I can't believe it was the same episode, same first season, same episode number as TNG as it was at TOS.
It's a coincidence. Only if they do it 3 times in a row for a hat trick, Gray. That's when they meant it. But no, the Star Trek DS9 episode on Lower Decks with the writing, it's almost as if those writers had been pulled from the DS9 writing crew back in the day, but with comedy at a pin. I mean, DS9 was probably the funniest of the main series shows, purely because we had Quark and we had people. Well, I'd say though, someone like Quark and Quark's battles with Odo and the Taylor and.
But see, yes and no, because if you go back on both TNG and the original series, there was always a funny episode.
What was the funniest out of Lower Decks thing for you, Gray? The funniest of the live action series. What would you say if I put you on the spot?
You're talking. Well, if we go back to the original,
no, all of them. They're live action. What was the funniest series in general for you? Would you say? Maybe the original series. There was a lot of banter between the top 3.
I would probably I'd probably say the original. Plus, there was some really good episodes that they were funny. The Tribbles was funny. The episode they did where they're on the planet of the gangsters, that the whole planet was locked into
That rings a
the
bell.
mafia gangsters one, and
That,
they come up with a card game called Fizbin.
God, I've forgotten that.
Everybody knows that one. Shatter just comes up with it off the top of his head. He starts going, "We're gonna play a game of Fizbin," and he says, "Here's how we play it." He gets his accent
He
just like
he
them.
just comes away with it, does he?
And then Nimoy has to adopt, or Spock has to adopt an accent similar to the 30s gangsters. So it was hilarious hearing Spock trying to imitate the accent. He had to go, "Yeah,
Was this
you
improv?
guys."
Was this improv?
I don't know, to be honest with you,
Please
but
say it
it
is.
was great.
Oh.
It was
Oh,
hilarious to see all
I
this.
tell you
It was
this much,
great
great.
stuff.
I have been watching some of the original series. Obviously, we take my time with it, but I've downloaded a big bunch of it. I've got Paramount Plus for a month trial because I'll be going places that I will need to watch several episodes. So, and that'll come obvious later on in a couple of weeks' time. And I'll put a lot onto my phone and just literally watch them because I've got a month trial Paramount Plus as opposed to watching them on the internet of bad quality, which I don't want to do. So yeah, anyway, we digress, but probably good because this episode was a bit poorer, so we're actually flying through it a bit quicker, to be fair. Not a bad thing. Quality over quantity.
By the way, I have all the remastered TOS episodes on DVD. I could always give them to you if you needed to.
Got a DVD
Put them in
player.
your suitcase and bring them back.
You're spoiling it, Gray.
Yes, I know. I didn't say anything.
Anyway, cut that out and edit it. Anyway, right. So back to the episode. So everything seems fine on the planet. So the Cerritos, literally, then the plan is between the captain and the admiral. They're going to visit the sister planet, which I thought would be part 2 or number 3 because it's in the same solar system, but no, it's got a completely different name. Brekka, it's called. En route, because obviously it seems to be further away than it actually is. They're supposed to be sister planets in the same solar system, yet it seems to take them a little while from A to B. But en route, Victoria, the reporter, she's about to interview Captain Freeman, but Beckett manages to get in for an interview first with her. She basically stands by her mother's door, and goes, "No, I've got a few things I want to say. Let's do it." And we think, the proverbial is going to hit the fan here,
Right.
you know.
Right.
That's what everyone's first thought was, but there's a twist coming up later on about that one. Basically, it looks like on paper after this interview, because you don't hear the interview initially, it looks like she's messed things up massively, and they made the Cerritos crew look really silly and stupid and incompetent. Beckett's gone too far, according to her mother, Captain Freeman, and now, great, she's going to the dreaded Starbase 80. We finally get a bit of info on the dreaded Starbase 80 because it was always a joke. And remember Ransom's face? He's like, "No, you're not serious, Captain. No." Even he wouldn't do it. He threatened it in a previous episode, but it was only a threat. It was a aimless threat. But now she's serious. He's like, "Oh, you're serious? You really want to send her to Starbase 8?" And she's like, "Yeah, I'm done. And then everyone's like, wow, because we think we know how bad it is. And it turns out it is pretty awful because the people that run it are like very dumb. I think of the pack lids. It's almost as if there was a couple of pack lids running it because they're a bit dumb, and one of them has a signage and his pullover, doesn't he, that he's given to Beckett to wear. He's, "There's my sandwich, me dumb. Like, oh God."
Yeah. I love the look of the shuttlecraft. It's this little tiny tin can. The paint job's all bad on it. Everything's
It's
like
bad. It looked like an original. I know it's a next gen era shuttlecraft, but it easily could have been a first original series type shuttle, just because it was smaller. It was
worse than that. I mean, the thing was big.
It's like, it wasn't. It was awful. It was literally, they sent the worst breakdown recovery car that you could ever imagine to take Becca on her way. But they do get to Brekka just after that. They stop to let Becca off. She's on her way, warps away. They eventually get to Brekka. Brekka's a mess, though. That's the planet. It's the real mess. And this caught me by surprise, and I'm glad they done it, just not the way they done it later on. Spoiler.
Right.
The the Breen. Remember those guys that wore the bloody, that wore the Power Rangers helmets, and they were like, you can't understand anything they're saying. They're like futuristic Cybermen dressed in green. You can't hear what they're saying. They're back, and I did like them from DS9 when we first introduced them to it. I was a fan of that. It was good to see them again. They start trying to take out the crew. They're shooting at them. It's an emergency beam out for all the crew. Freeman returns to the bridge immediately. What did I put here? Oh, yeah, at the whole time. Sometimes my notes confuse me. We get a brief view of the bridge and the counsellors there, the shrink, the bird shrink, if you remember that,
whatever he is.
Talking to his mother on the bridge on the view screen because he's temporarily in charge. He must be the highest in command at the time, and he's speaking to his mother. And if I'm right in saying, Freeman walks onto the bridge and calls his mother by her name. So he obviously must know her name. He's like, what can't remember what the name was. What the hell are you doing there? You know, and I found she's sitting there knitting or something, like, you know, and the doctor's like, oh, sorry, bye, gone. More backstory from the shrink. I love it. We need to see this stuff, you know. So we've got red alert. The Breen are chasing the Cerritos. This can go one of only one way, to be honest. Not two ways, one way. The Breen, I like this part before we get to the next part, Gray. The Breen fire their energy dampening weapon. Now, I remember this from back in the day. The Defiant was one of the first ships in DS9 to encounter this. They thought they would go into the rescue because it's mighty Defiant, but the shields getting smashed. I don't remember it draining all the power. I just remember it taking the shields down, but maybe it was energy dampening in general, and I just didn't pay attention. The ship loses pretty much all power apart from emergency power. But to bear in mind, as far as I know, the Cerritos doesn't have ablative hull armor, which the Defiant did, and that's what made it survive as long as it did to get the emergency pods away, and everyone survived for the most part. And then it blew up. That was a sad day for Defiant history. But we know what's coming up now, Gray. Let's say only one thing is going to happen at this stage here, and I'll let you chime in with this point as well because it's a big point. The Cerritos, surprise, surprise, is getting, I want to swear here, but I'm not going to, is getting heavily damaged and beat up, and we would say here, pumped. Absolutely destroyed. Again, I put in big brackets here, it's getting a bit ridiculous. A torpedo at one point goes right through the hull. I'm getting vibes of Rafa Khan, and I'm sure TNG at some point as well. And Gray's mentioned here as well, he says, right, I'll let you lead the line with this, Gray. You're basically,
my whole thing is
pissed off.
When I see this, I instantly get pissed off because this is the fourth or fifth time.
It's poor writing, isn't it, Gray? Because they're using it as an easy storytelling technique.
I mean, how can you do this? It's like, I'm started thinking like they must think it's a joke. It's gotten to the point where, oh yeah, we'll just keep doing it because it'll be like a running joke. But I hate to tell them, it ain't a running joke. It's really stupid. So for the fourth or fifth time, I'm lost count already. The Cerritos is getting pulverized by some kind of enemy or whatever. How many times can you take out a ship in as many weeks? It's ridiculous. So this whole thing is just a big joke. And then it gets a torpedo through the hull, and it's just looking like it's going to blow up any minute. And I'm like, oh, please.
It looks battered. That looks one of the worst beatings it's taken since it lost all its hull.
And don't give me the excuse of it that it's a cartoon show and this garbage again, because it's just, how do you keep repeating the same thing over and over and over and over and over?
It's an important starship, this. Okay, yes, it's Second Contact, but in terms of the second tier of ships, it's one of the top dogs. People said at previous episodes, oh, you kidding me? Like when they had the ensigns fighting against one another with the orbs, remember? It's like, you kidding? Everyone's heard of the Cerritos. You guys are amazing. You guys are the best of the rest. And then you get your smack. Okay, the Cerritos is not my favourite starship, Gray, right? I've grown to love it a little bit. It's like one of your children where you love all your kids, but you've got your favourite one that you don't tell anyone about. And then you love the other one, of course you do. But that's that ship, that person there. I'm not a massive fan of it. The whole hull thing at the bottom is inverted. It's just weird. But it doesn't deserve to get pulverised and humiliated every other week. And it's happened since season one. It's happened
looks like an ugly
times.
Reliant.
Yeah, well,
The
thank you for
Reliant
saying.
looked a lot
What was
better.
the Reliant? Was it Reliant class? What was the class of ship though? Was it the Reliant
Well,
class?
the Reliant, yeah, Reliant class, but it had the nacelles underneath, but not like that. They were
Yeah,
much closer to
but
the hull.
it had that bit in between the nacelles on the top,
Right. The top,
and
it
it
came
looked
like this,
better.
and then it went
Yes,
like that, and the
yes,
nacelles were here.
and it looked fine. That
Much
just
better
looks
looking.
silly. It's like it's back to front. Someone took a ship and went, phew, and
But
just turned it around.
even if that's the case, and we understand that, and that's the way it is with lower decks, and it's not the greatest ship like the Enterprise, blah blah blah.
Treat it with more
Fine,
respect.
I can go along with that. I can accept all that, but I can't accept the ship getting blown to bits 5 times. I mean, if it was Starfleet, they would look at it and go like, "You all are on review, man. We want you all to come in here. We're going to interview every one of you to find out what is wrong with you people. How do you get destroyed so many times? How do you cost us so much money bringing your ship back into the port to
If
get
we
fixed?"
still had money in this century, we'd be broke now.
I mean, it's just too much, man. It's
Yeah,
just,
but you
and then
make
they
it.
have to, and then and of course, the last minute they have to get rescued by some ship, whatever's
Oh,
going on.
you're ahead of time. Well, you're right. We'll get to that in a moment. We'll get to that moment, Gray. But yes, the fourth or fifth time the Cerritos is getting smashed again, and it's happened several times in season 3 actually compared to other seasons. One time a season at best, you're allowed to beat up the ship. That's it.
Right.
But yeah, no, you mentioned. And sorry to cut you off there before, Gray. I just wanted to add that last part in. They do come to the rescue again, the Starfleet, and I didn't like this because again, whenever the ship gets absolutely smashed and pulverized, it's always another Federation ship to come in and save the day, and so that's lame because it's again the same storytelling technique, not something else that saved them. And maybe a Klingon ship or a Romulan ship came in to save the day, or
Look, one of those 4 or 5 times they
anomaly.
got pulverized. They should have gotten blown to hell and everybody be dead.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
come on.
It's a fair point to make. What to mention before the point you were going to make, Gray, was the Breen are literally about to board the Cerritos. They're literally outside the windows, about to go in with shacks and that stuff. Give no quarters, get ready to fire. Shacks doing his usual.
They don't
Pew,
take
pew, bang, bang.
prisoners.
They don't take prisoners. Yeah, no surrender. When the mysterious ship you're talking about comes to the rescue, it's the USS Aledo. It's a Texas class ship. Never heard of this before. It's one of 3 new fully automated starships. It basically comes in, and do you know what I first thought it was right off the bat until I got a proper look at it, Gray? I thought it was a Prometheus or the Prometheus. I thought it was going to split into 3. I don't know if you get that vibe because it's got the kind of dagger thing at the front, But it basically, this tiny ship, because it's tiny, it's like Defiant class, if not smaller, probably smaller, comes in and wastes, I don't know how many Breen ships, so I'm thinking
3 different Breen ships.
yeah,
like
and the Breen ships are tough. They're not easy to blow up. It cuts through them like wet paper. And you're like, what? So again, lame. And obviously, you can tell us why you don't like this. Great. It'll probably be the same reason as me.
Well, there's a couple things, but the biggest thing that I didn't like about it is that they called them fully automated ships. So in other words, there's no humans,
Scary.
no aliens,
Skynet.
nobody running the ship. Period. And I'm sitting there going like, no, because one of the things about Starfleet, it is fiction. Okay, everybody, it's a fictional show.
Science fiction.
It's Starfleet. It's science fiction. And in this series, imagine if the whole series was ships that were all fully automated and there was no humans or beings on any of the ships. It would be a boring television show.
Good point.
So they sit there and they introduce this automated ship. Now, it's not to say that logically there would probably be automated ships in the future, but that's not the point. It's still science fiction, and we want to see ships with people on them. So all of a sudden, these ships come in. So I hate that whole thing about bringing the automated ships in. I can understand in Starfleet if they have automated ships that are kind of like exploring a little bit or running the pathway of planets that are far away so that the Federation can send real ships out there. Okay, that's cool. Those things happen. I believe there was even automated ships in the original series that were basically just carrying freight. There really was nobody on board.
Yeah, that's fine as well. Got their purpose.
And that's fine too. But to have a ship come in there that looks like it's like Defiant class strength and just like totally just zipping around and killing off the Breen like they're
3
nothing,
warships easily.
and I'm sitting there going like, no, this is totally ridiculous. And supposedly now that they've done this, it's in canon. And all I got to say is that's not a good move, writers. And that if it is in canon, you need to never do this again.
I just
you can't just sit there and introduce this because now it's just like, well, now these ships can just show up, whenever and just take out other ships, and it just doesn't make sense.
That point is fully agreed by myself, Gray. I really do fully get behind your point on that one. What I would add to that is, if they are going to do that, and I'm not saying they should, I don't want them to do that again, make it believable. So this ship comes in, it barely, I don't even think it takes a shot, maybe it does, but it's going through, at least let it take a bit of a small pounding at the start, it can't be invulnerable. This thing must be made out of the centre of a red dwarf or blue dwarf or some bloody star where something's so hard, that you can't get through it. Why does it not take anything? It's not realistic. 3 ships just sit back and go, fire at me. They're going to fire back,
first of all, the whole point of the Cerritos getting attacked is totally ridiculous. So that premise already is stupid. Okay, for the 4th or 5th time, we already set that precedent. But now the ship comes in and does what it does. So why did I can get a real simple. I'm not an amazing writer or anything. Why didn't they just introduce a couple of ships that are, yes, automated, but basically don't do anything and don't attack, and just throw them out there to block off the Breens shooting the Cerritos?
Yep.
Enough, and that way it gave the Cerritos enough time to warp out of there and get out of the way. Would have made a lot more sense.
Or the 2 or 3 of them together would have gave the Cerritos a fighting chance, because it still had phasers at this point, I think. It could have gave it a chance to actually fight back, as opposed to being this little tiny invulnerable ship.
Right, but you don't even need to fight back. If they threw a couple of automated ships out there that were freighters,
and let the Cerritos
they'll absorb the impact, so that the Breen are confused for at least a minute.
Yep.
And while they're confused, they get away. That would have been perfect.
I agree.
It would have made total sense, and yet they had to do this for what?
I think what Gray's trying to say, people, is Paramount have to be signing both of us up to write. I mean, I don't like being away from home for too long, and Gray doesn't either. I've got further to travel, but listen, I will take one for the team and fly out to the States for so many months or weeks a year, help out the writing crew. I'm sure Gray will do the same as well. You're welcome.
I'll even work for half the money that the writers are getting now.
I'll even work for free. Just put up my hotel and business class flight, so we're laughing. But yeah, so we've had
the Star Trek paraphernalia we can sell later. But anyway.
Oh yeah, that's true. Well done, Gray. Well done. So yeah, I mean, listen, because the episode wasn't great, we could have flown through it quicker, but we naturally diverge, as you've established on this series, and because we had to, because it wasn't for the sake of it, we generally had to have a good moan, gurn, complain about this, some of the shit things in it. But that's most of the kind of negative stuff out the way. It does end pretty cool and shocking and surprising, the twist. So the twist is coming up. The twist is coming up. Hold on to your underpants here, people. So we see all of Victoria's interviews. She's on Starfleet News or whatever it was called, something cheesy or tacky. Yeah. Turns out everyone else, apart from Beckett, was saying negative, silly, stupid, daft things about the Cerritos and its crew and its way of doing things. Beckett was the only one to say nice things. She talks about it being a family. Her mother works there. She loves it. You see Captain Freeman constantly try to get a hold of her daughter, constantly hail, hail, hail. It's going to the futuristic equivalent of voicemail. She can't get through. Freeman tries to reach Beckett on Starbase 80 as well. The whole time she's speaking to the Tweedledee and Tweedledum or the Packlids, as I like to call them. They're not Packlids, by the way, people, but they're dumb like them. There's 2 control guys there, and they try to get hold of her. But this whole time, there's a couple of random bats, because this place is dingy and dark, like constantly flying at the guys, and they're like, God damn it, would you hit the bloody, and then they're saying, she's not hearing him, or where is she? And just as they're about to finish off, the guy's like, would you smack that bat with the broom? Come on, smack it. And he does, but he hits obviously the comm display, and it goes to black. So I had a chuckle at that. But then obviously we're feeling bad because Beckett has actually been brilliant, completely against character. She's said the right thing. Freeman's actually turning out to be the unofficial bad guy of this season. We lose a lot of respect for her there, and she is just left feeling devastated and gutted, like, what have I done? Can't get a hold of her. Where is Beckett gone? Turns out the archaeologist has made a return. The English-speaking lady, the English accent lady, sorry, she comes back. I knew she'd come back. We both called it, Gray.
Yeah.
We knew she was too good a character to leave and not bring back. See, this is good writing, guys, like this is the good writing. You saw
This is the only part where the
Yeah,
writing actually made sense. Was only at the end.
yeah, you
That was
see
it.
you see a good character that you used before, you knew it, so you say to yourself, let's keep her and use her again, and you did. So well done. And the twist was genius as well, Gray. I didn't see that coming. Did you see that coming?
Mm-mm.
Did you see that?
No.
Exactly. We didn't see it coming, and that's good writing again. Do more of that, please, guys.
Well, the biggest thing was I think I didn't mention that she resigns from Starfleet.
That's a good point. Yeah, she did actually resign. So that's a good point,
I didn't
mate.
think she would go that far. I thought maybe whatever would happen, but she
Yeah,
just flat out resigns.
she did resign. That's why they can't get hold of her, because she's not kept here as prisoner. She's just been sent to Starbase 80. She wasn't prisoner. She could resign at any time, and that's what she did. She's with the archaeologist on a shuttle. They're
Seems happy too.
Maybe they're going to be a
happy.
couple. I don't know. They're playing captain and first officer, which I found adorable. The two of them are off on their adventures, which I think they would be bloody good at. That kind of couple. Knew she would return. Freeman feels awful have left. She's made a huge mistake. It kind of ends there. It was a brilliant ending, brilliant twist. That's why I give it 6 out of 10. But obviously, Gray's put 5 out of 10. I can't say I disagree with you, Gray. You were right, I think. It could have been much worse if the funny plot points weren't put in, the funny moments, the twist and stuff. That would have brought it down to a 4 or a 3. So,
yeah. And if they didn't do all this stuff with getting the ship shot up and introducing this Texas class BS, it might have been a little higher. Here's the funny thing, though. This episode at the end seemed more like a season ending.
it did feel like that, actually, didn't it?
To be honest with you, and that should have been the season ending. That should have been the cliffhanger.
Where have
for
we
the
seen
last
that
show.
before, though? Where have we seen that before? Strange New Worlds. Episode 9 was actually really the finale with the time crystal thing. And then episode 10 was very underwhelming because it shouldn't have been the finale. It should have been 9.
Right. Even
So
though
they've
it
done
was
that
still a
here.
decent episode, they should have flopped them around or switched them.
It doesn't.
So now we have one more show. I guess it's the 10th is the finale.
The finale,
or is there more
and
than
it
10?
doesn't bode well for the finale, grade, does it?
Oh, geez.
So our plans for so we'll do the finale, and then I think the same day, give or take. What's it? The 22nd. Oh, it's out on the 27th. So maybe it's a Wednesday or
27th,
Thursday.
yeah.
Next week, you might find that we'll be doing 2 episodes kind of close to each other, or maybe back to back if we have the time. That will be episode 10 of Lord Dex, season 3, and then episode 1 of Prodigy 1.5, as we're calling it. It should have just been bloody season 2. That was silly, that. But that's our plan. And I think Gray and I are looking forward to covering that a bit more, because it isn't a comedy, but it's more serious, proper Star Trek. Even though it's a kid's show, it's more serious, which is ironic. Yeah. So, but yeah, are you sticking 5 out of 10, Gray? Are you, after we discussed it, went through it? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, not gone any lower, any more than I almost wanted to go lower than that with some of the stuff, but
you remember the plus points.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'll give it 6 out of 10 as well. Not amazing, but they can still finish on a high. We will be back for those 2 episodes next week. But again, the call to arms, if you can do the usual, if you do like this format of video, a cheeky thumbs up would really help this video. And please, if you could subscribe as well, to show us that you do like the show. And always please remember, never be shy to leave comments below if you like something or dislike something, because constructive feedback is something we welcome. We don't pretend to be experts at this, and we always like to try and improve. Don't forget, Gray will be coming up in 2-3 weeks. We'll be doing another GGR episode, the General Entertainment Podcast that Gray heads, and I co-host with him. And please remember that we'll be on all podcasting platforms for this pod. And we have a Discord, but it's extremepcuk.co.uk. We have an entertainment channel there as well. We speak Star Trek and all kinds of other shenanigans. But that'll be everything for today, Gray. Thank you for coming along. Until next week, live long and prosper, I guess. Bye. Cheerio.
Bye.